Okay, so when you get to these pages, you are pretty much going to use railroad track method exclusively. What we don't have to write down anymore is writing down what side the variable is on and what's being done to the variable. Those are kind of like just little things you're going to do in your head to decide how you're going to approach this. So hopefully they've given you enough space to work. If not, you have to write kind of small, but rewrite the original equation and then extend your railroad tracks. And then what side is the variable on, left or right? And what's being done to it? Right, we're taking the variable a and we're multiplying it by 8. Okay? So what's the opposite or inverse of multiply by 8? Division by 8. So we show that with a division bar, we're going to divide by 8. And then by rule, whatever you do on one side, you have to do the same on the other side. So what do we have to do on the right side? Divide by 8. Greg, on the left side, what cancels out? Right, the two 8's cancel. So we put a line through it. It's like 8 divided by 8, isn't that 1? Right? And then you would have 1a, wouldn't you? And 1a is really a all by itself. That's why we could say that they cancel out, and that's why we cross it out. And then what do we do on the right side? 24 divided by 8, which is 3. We want to still check to be sure. When you check it, don't go through the motions. Actually do it in your head and make sure it works. So we rewrite the original equation again. And I find, at least with period 6, because we've met with them today, they're leaving out this step. Always rewrite the original over again. You'll have, essentially, for one-step equations, which is what these are, you'll have 3 lines if you do it right. Line 2 is the substitution for what you got for A. So now, instead of 8 times A, it's 8 times, and the 24, the number all by itself, is going to be staying exactly as is. And then just double check and make sure 8 times 3, is that 24? So it checks, and you could circle this because now A definitely, or 3 definitely satisfies that equation. 8 times 3 is 24. Okay, number 2. Rewrite the original. Make your train tracks. And Taylor, I'm going to talk you through this because I know you missed yesterday. Which side has the variable on it? Correct. Now we look at the variable g. And what are we doing to it? What operation and by how much? Right, and we learned yesterday what we're doing is in order to get the g all by itself, we do the opposite of subtract by 4, which is inverse operation, but but you're right. We're adding 4. So we show that by putting a plus 4 underneath it. And then I demonstrated yesterday, you got to think of like an equation like a scale. Whatever you do on one side, if you're going to add 4 pieces to one side, that's going to make one side heavier. So you've got to add 4 to the other side to get it to balance out. So we have to add 4 to this side as well. Izzy, what cancels out? Correct. So we cross it out. It's like taking 4 steps backwards and then 4 steps forward, so they just kind of cancel it out. And it leaves the g all by itself. And then we have to do what on the left side? 32 plus 4. Did you get 36? Okay, here comes the check. Rewrite the original. Always 3 steps for a check until you get to what's called 2-step equations. That's coming tomorrow, and then it's going to be 4 steps to check. Okay. Instead of writing g now, what is the value that we substitute in? Matthew. And then is 36 take away 4, 32. Therefore, this is definitely correct. And keep in mind, too, our answer is 36. If this was a word problem, they ask you how many feet or how many inches or how many bags or how many shirts, the answer is not 32. The answer is 36. The check just proves it. Serenity. Talk me through this. What do I do? Okay, what do I have to do to get, what do I have to do to get J all by itself? Wait, time out. There's a question. We're actually going to, when we get to that one, we're actually going to cross it out and I'll explain why. But we're actually doing number 3. So, Seren, what do I have to do to get J all by itself? Right. What do I have to do on the left side? And what cancels out? And then 56 take away 29. I actually saw somebody make a mistake this morning on this and wrote down 25. But it should be 27. This is why we do the check. Because, let me show you what I'm going to do with the check just to be sure here. All right, I'm going to rewrite the original. And I'm going to substitute now, instead of J, I'm going to put 27 in. What I would do is I would do it off to the side just to be sure. Because I had somebody in last class that put 24 here. And just automatically assumed that 24 plus 29 is 56. And it's not. So just double check and make sure your math is good. Otherwise, it kind of defeats the purpose of doing the check. Sam. Yes. We're going to do two-step equations, which isn't that much harder. It's just another step. But that's coming tomorrow. And then it maxes out with that, and it's not too bad. But you have to master this first. This is your one-step equations. You have to understand this totally before you do the two-step. Mm-hmm. If you're getting the wrong answer, then you've made a math error here, and you got to go back and maybe get some help. If you don't see it yourself, then get some help, and I could talk you through it, or another student can help you and figure out what you might have done wrong. Okay? You sure? If the check doesn't work where you don't get these two numbers the same, then you've made a mistake somewhere. And then we have to go back and analyze it, whether it's with me or with another fellow student, or or you just self-analyzing it yourself and you find your own mistake. Okay? If you have any instances, of that so far, I'll help you through it. Okay. So I didn't catch this for this year, but it's definitely out for next year. Uh, erase this, get rid of it, because the answer is if you do 15 take away 9, you get 6. So you're not really doing any algebraic equations or any railroad tracks with it. If I were to rewrite this next year, and I already did actually, I might do something like this. Okay, and then that you can actually do. But for now, um, take it out, because I think all it does is just confuse everybody. So K equals 6, but you don't really need to do railroad tracks for that. You really don't. Because the variable's already all by itself. And that's always our goal. So why make extra work? You just take your 15 minus 9, and technically 15 minus 9 is an expanded form. You just standardize it, make it 6. Did a double 15 take away 9. All right, so we have a little added curveball with number 5 in that we have a decimal, but we've done it. This was mod 3. So we set it up. The variable's still on the left side, and we're adding how much? So we're going to do the opposite and take away 3.45. But now look what happens. Watch what I'm going to do. Just work smarter, not harder. Since I've got to do the math and the subtraction, line up my decimals, because you would have to do that in subtraction anyway. And look, I'm even going to add an annex 0 here because I've got to subtract it. If you didn't do it here, then you'd have to do it off to the side in order to subtract correctly. Riley. Because, instead of what? because I have m, and what's being done to m is I'm adding 3.45 to it. So I have to do the opposite to get m by itself because this is going to cancel out. We want m all by itself. All right? So now I just have to subtract very carefully, and I'm going to have to borrow, and I can do it right here if you've allowed room. Borrow 1, drop the rock. Did you get 9.35? If you didn't, that's why we do the check. So now what we do in the check is we're going to rewrite everything as is. I'm going to add the 0, might as well, because I'm going to need it anyway. Substitute 9.35 plus 3.45 is supposed to equal 12.80. Now I want to truthfully check this. So I'm going to do it off to the side somewhere where I have space because I want to definitely make sure that I haven't made a basic math error. And I'm good. Okay. Oops, don't circle that. Only circle 9.35. That. Number 4, we decided to skip, but if you did it, you really didn't need to do railroad tracks at all. The answer is 6. But all we really needed to do with that was 15 take away 9. We didn't have to really show it with railroad tracks. It's a question that doesn't really belong there. Okay. Do you have one more problem that you had to do, or was that it? Okay. Okay, page 9, example 1, our first word problem. Adrian and Sarah have read a total of 22 books this year. I'd like you to underline that. Total, 22. Sarah has read 12 books. Let the variable A represent the amount of books Adrian has read. Write and solve an algebraic equation to find out how many books Adrian has read. So we know that Adrian and Sarah together have a total of 22 books. And they tell us that Sarah has read how much? 12. So the amount of books Sarah has read, which is 12, plus the amount of books Adrian has read, which we don't know, but we're going to call it A, together, that has to equal what? 22. So here's how we represent that algebraically. Adrian's books, which we don't know, plus the amount of Sarah's books, which we do know, which is 12, together that equals 22. Now you're right back to railroad tracks again. Ava, what do I have to do to the side that has the variable? Correct, minus 12, inverse operation. And it goes without saying we got to do that to the other side as well. Right, my 12s are gone. And that leaves A all by itself, which is representing Adrian's books. Chris, what do I do to the right side? Correct. What do you get? And you get 10. Okay, let's check it. Anybody want to come up and do the check? Shannon, do it in red so we could see it in a different color. Well, I'll talk you through it. You'll be fine. Rewrite the original. Mm-hmm. Very good. Perfect. 3 lines. Now we just have to put in a sentence. Is the amount of books she read 22 or 10? So don't get confused. We're solving for A. The check, most often the check 22 is not going to be equal or the same number as what we're getting for the value of A. Sometimes it is. Rarely, but sometimes it is. And so Sarah is her name, right? Sarah has read 10. Oh, Adrian. Sorry. Yes, Adrian. I ever hear the name Adrian, I always think of the movie Rocky. Did you guys watch Rocky? Before your time. I don't think I know any other Adrians other than Rocky's wife. And I don't know her. Sure, but let me set it up and then I'll have you. I'll do it with you. Does anybody? Does it? Okay. So Matthew has earned a total of $M this week mowing lawns. Okay. David, and I'm going to underline this. David has earned 3 times more than Matthew. Do you remember back in lesson 4 when we did words to math? 3 times more than somebody else is 3 times M, because the variable Matthew M is representing um, his dollars. So we know 3M, 3 times Matthew, makes a total of $60. Okay, Matt. Let him do it. Let him do it. Okay, do the check. Did you guys get M equals 20? Okay. And when he substitutes the 20 in, what will he need to do? Right, and he needs to add the dot now because you can't put 3 and 20 together. So you have to put the dot. And now sentence. Matthew earned. No, I'll put Matthew. Do it in the, this is an English connection. Do it in the third person, not the first person. Just learn point of view in ELA. Earned, not learned, because I just said the word learned, so you put L in it. Earned. Earned. You had it. You did it capital letter. It was okay. Yay. There you go. R is kind of sort of there. You're good. And you're good. That's all right. You get the gist. Oh, but it's not 60, bud. I don't have that much money. Okay. There you go. Good job. You're in, how much he it's look back and read the word problem. How much did he earn? $20. It's okay. It's okay. At the end of class, I'll beat him and take it back after we're off the air. So this is a replacement for example 3. Because example 3 is about the square and you don't need to solve it algebraically if they give you one side. However, this one, we can set up an algebraic equation. And the first thing that you're going to do is write the general formula for the area of a rectangle, which is A equals length times width. Remember that? Remember, we could put 2 variables, L and W, together, and that means multiply without using the dot anymore. Now I'm going to take the elements from the word problem that they give us and substitute wherever we can into the equation. Do they give you the area? What is the area? Okay, so 60 inches squared. All I really need is the number. Don't worry about the units right now. I'm going to substitute that in for the A. So 60 equals. Do they give you the length? They don't give you the length. That's what they're asking you to find, right? And they give you the width, which is, so it's 5 times the length we don't know, right? Which is supposed to equal 60. So 5 times the length is 5L. Question? No, because the coefficient always goes before the variable. From here, we can track it out. What do I do? Talk me through this. Raise your hand. Shannon. Actually, let me go with somebody else because I brought you up to the board. Sam. Mm-hmm. Yes. Correct. Yes. Divide this side by 5 and then do it on the other side. Great. Very good. Very nice. Right. Okay, 60 divided by 5, right, is 12. Okay, let's check it. Now, when I do the check, I do not have to do this, but I do have to do this. Yes, go ahead. So 60 equals 5L. Dan. Dan, what do I substitute in for L? What do I have to substitute in for L? Let him do it. Let him do it. Let him do it. Is 5 times 12 60? Okay. So that proves that our length, now assuming that if this gets written next year correctly, there'll be a line for you to write out the actual sentence. Our length is 12 what? No, because our area is squared. It's just 12 inches. Thank you. All right, last example for today is now volume. Same idea, but now you have to contend with 3 numbers. You'll see there'll be 2 numbers on one of the sides of the tracks that you'll have to do something with. What is the formula for the volume of a prism in general? Remember? Right. Length times width times height. So what we do is V volume equals length times width times height, which we can express LWH. We don't need dots, and we certainly don't want to put little x's in there for multiplication anymore. What is the volume? Do they give you width? Do they give you length? No, they don't give you the length. The length is what you have to find, right? They give you width, which is, and they give you height, which is. Okay, so we are going to substitute in what they give us. They give us volume, and that's, oh, sorry, 30. Length we don't know, so we're going to keep that L. Laura, Nikki, what's the width? Right. And Luke, what's the height? So you wind up with this, but can we combine like terms? What can we combine? The 3 times the 2, right? We could do that. We don't need any special powers to do 3 times 2. So we can rewrite this before we even start to make our tracks. We can rewrite this as L times 6, right? But the coefficient always has to go before the variable. So this now gets rewritten as 6L, and you're right back to what you've been doing all along. For 2 reasons. Number one is because You don't want to get it confused as a exponent, which always goes after. And number two, because that's just the rules of math, the coefficient goes before the variable. What do you mean? What talk to me? I don't know what you mean. The coefficient always goes before the variable. So here, the 30, this is 30 equals 6L. You can do that if that confuses you. He makes a good point. And I have now. Give me. Come on. Don't pack up yet. We have a couple minutes. If you're the type of guy, and maybe Patrick's like this too, because we're like a little neurotic. Like if you're not comfortable with the variable being on the right side of the tracks, and you just like it on the left, if you wanted to rewrite this as 6L equals 30, and I think this is what you mean, right, Matt? Because you just like the variable being on the left, you can do that, and it would not affect the outcome whatsoever. Okay? No problem doing that as long as, okay, keep in mind though, and I'm backtracking a little bit. Let's say you have this, m plus 3 on one side of the tracks, um, and it's 20 on this side. If you like to move it so the m's on the other side, you have to move the m and the 3 onto the other side. You can't move one without the other. So the m plus 3 would have to switch this way, and you can still be okay. All right, let's solve this quickly. What do I do to both sides? Okay. What cancels on the right? What's left? 30 divided by 6. The missing side, length is 5 what? Units in this case. Have a nice family connection night.